Norman here, and are you still not subscribed to Matt's channel? Well, if you're not, hit the subscribe button because he's giving out free picks each and every week. Hope you have a good rest of your day.
UFC Vegas 89, Ribas versus Thug Rose. Still at the Apex in Las Vegas. I'll break down the main card, provide free picks, leans, price talk, and more. Another week fight night card. Starting to get used to these now. I usually don't have a large client card for this. Usually don't like a ton of fights. So it's usually smaller cards for these fight night events. I suggest you also, tread lightly for these fight night cards. Don't have a ton of volume. Pick a few spots that you like. We'll discuss a few of these shortly. Systemsportscapping.com or link.me/systemcapping. You can find updated records over there, free picks, sportsbook promos. I'm doing articles for specific sportsbooks now. You can check those out. I'll be posting them on Twitter and Instagram, but also they're in my bio, so check that out. Client comments over there, resume, and subscription opportunities. Audio is available at Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and of course video on YouTube and now Rumble. Current runs all sports, guys. I'd like to give you guys a transparent update every week. 12-0 the last two pay-per-view cards in the UFC. That's the highlight right now. Can't get much better than that. You got volume there, along with a clean sweep. 12-0 last two pay-per-view cards. UFC 299 was a 7-0 event. 7-2 NHL run right now. Low volume. Back-to-back PGA outrights, guys. 71% on the year in the matchup department on PGAs. 25-9 free pick videos in the PGA. We have lost back-to-back free plays. You got to expect it when you're shooting 76, 77% in the last year and 3 months. You're going to have some losses now. And they came, however, last three PGA cards have been profitable. Pays off to be a client, guys. Quick UFC Vegas 88 card recap. I had very small units and only just two plays. One actually got voided. Brian Battle versus Losa fight got voided. So nothing there. I do believe Losa could have fought on there. Obviously, there's some controversy. He got poked. He did get poked in the eye. It's clear. But I thought he could continue. He actually wanted to fight Battle after because Battle did talk some shit to him. So he actually wanted to fight him, and Losa seemed fine when he wanted to fight him, but didn't want to fight because he actually did lose the first round. He was live to obviously maybe hurt him, maybe mix in some wrestling, but Battle looked good in the first round there. So yeah, that fight got voided there. I did have a fun 3-fight parlay, 2 for 3 on that. Kennedy ruined that with a split decision loss to OSP. Surprised. Obviously, 40-year-old looked maybe his best I've seen in 2 or 3 years from OSP. He found something. You expect Kennedy had the advantage pretty much everywhere. The length, the reach, the speed. Didn't use that. One judge gave it to him. But I actually thought he lost the fight. Very close fight. But I did think Kennedy did lose the fight, even though one judge gave it to him. Tuivasa. He was a short story for a year or two there, getting some nice wins. Now it's a 4-fight losing streak, guys. Right? He tried to step up in competition. He's not there. And this fight, not a lot of people said it was a big step up in competition. I don't think it was. However, Tybura had a path, and it was on the ground and in the grappling. And he exposed Tuivasa there. He was smart. He fought smart, right? Tuivasa's only path to win that fight was catching him with a big shot. That was the only way he was going to win that fight. But Tybura was smart, right? Made it boring, made it ugly, brought it down to the ground, grappled, and submitted him in the first round. Hats off to Tybura there. Let's get right into it, guys. Let's get right into this card. Always love seeing Thug Rose back. What are we going to get out of her? We will see. But shop around, guys. Shop around for best prices. I always mention it time and time again. It's so important. Now that I'm doing these sportsbook promotions for specific sportsbooks, it's just so different from book to book. A lot of different ways to win and beat the market, and you want the best line possible, right? When you're betting fights from book to book, they do vary. Lines do vary. I suggest to have multiple books with multiple funds in them so you get the best line out there. Thug Rose, minus 225 versus Rebus, plus 187. The line's moving a bit on Rose. Money is coming on her. She was about minus 205, minus 200 earlier in the week. I understand why some money's coming on her. However, there are a couple concerns I do have to mention here. Rose is back after, she's in a different position right now, coming off back-to-back losses, right? First time in her career. Back up against the wall, right? Sparza fight, if you guys remember. Or maybe you blocked it out of your mind, right? It's a fight you don't want to remember. Probably one of the worst fights I've ever seen in my life, right? She was gun shy, worried about the takedowns, was scared to pull the trigger, right? For her fight, she actually looked pretty good. We know how good Faro is, right? She looked pretty good in that fight, but lost due to Faro landing the bigger shots. I think she had a couple takedowns in that there as well. But Faro, I think she could be a champion any day now. And, Thug Rose hung in there in that fight, but didn't do enough. The question always is, Rose, the mental game. How is she going to come into the fight? Right? Now, different scenario with her back up against the wall. How's that mental game going to play with her? Right? Reba's not a world beater at all, right? When she steps up in competition, she usually loses those fights, right? Macy Barber, Chukagian, Marina Rodriguez, right? All better fighters than her, and when she tried to step up to those levels, she wasn't able to, right? She has wins like, her best wins, Arrojo, Janaroba, Pinero, mid-tier girls. But when she stepped up to the highest, she usually fails, Rebas, and her lack of all-around skill set shows. Right, Rose should win this fight. Big striking advantage, in my opinion, and speed. Back up against the wall. Rebus is very easy to hit. If you see in her fight, she takes a lot of damage. She is very easy to touch, and I do think that's going to benefit Rose here. Don't think we'll see much grappling here. I don't even really know who has the advantage in the grappling department. It's fairly even when you look at the stats, so I don't have much to really talk about there. But another thing worth mentioning is, Rebus is going to be the smaller girl here. She's fought at 115 before. She'd moved up for 125 to this fight. Keep that in mind, guys. Her last fight was at 115. That's important here, right? So there's a lot of advantage here why Rose should be favorite, 2-1 favorite. I agree with that. I agree more at minus 200, the earlier line. It's, shop around. You can get better than minus 225 out there. This is a generic market line that I'm providing to you guys. Shop around. You can get better prices out there. But Rose is going to be the play. Not super confident with it due to, this is the first time she's in the position of back-to-back fights, back up against the wall. And then the mental game is always an issue when backing Rose. But, I may have Rose in some capacity for my clients this week. However, it just can't be a large unit play. I just don't have that confidence to pull the trigger on Rose for a larger unit on this weaker card. Williams, minus 190 versus Tafa, plus 150. Talk about bad co-main events. We had a bad co-main event last week. What happened, that IPO conference issue, and then now, Williams versus Tafa. It's just not a co-main. It should be a prelim fight, right? But they like to have sometimes the heavyweights on the main card. I get it, whatever. We already know it's a terrible card, right? Scary proposition when handicapping these type of fights, mid-tier, low-tier heavyweights. And I do always stress that, guys. Anything could really happen in these fights. And in this fight, I can just tell you it's a clear path for Williams if he decides to wrestle. Very good wrestler. He's going to be quicker in there, more athletic. He has fought at 205 before, but when he moves up, he is able to move up because of his strength, quickness, and his wrestling is very good. We've seen him take down multiple guys in his fights. Averages over 4 takedowns per fight, guys. Right? Don't get it twisted. Tafa's fights, they just don't go to the ground. Not many people try to take him down. He's usually getting matchups where he's fighting. That's why you see 100% takedown defense. He hasn't fought a guy like Williams that can wrestle. So Williams has a path. It is to wrestle and get this fight down to the ground, and he should win this fight. Play is going to be for Williams. However, Tafa is live. Again, it's mid-tier, low-tier heavyweights. He's live to hurt Williams on the feet. What if Tafa has some success with his takedowns? I don't technically really know how bad or good his takedown defense is. It shows 100%, but like I said, if you go back and watch his fights, not a lot of people are trying to take him down. So we don't really know how good it is. If he can keep this fight standing, Tafa could be dangerous on the feet. Either way, play will be Williams due to a big wrestling advantage in my eyes here. Can Tafa keep it standing? Good question. Very good question, right? It's not going to most likely get my money, this fight, but for video and audio purposes, podcast purposes, it's going to be Williams the play. Tough to call an outcome, right? Heavyweight fights, you usually want to lean more to a finish. However, Williams could just kind of control him on the ground and not find a finish. That is possible if Williams decides to fight that. And he doesn't get him down to the ground, right? Toffel probably will find a KO at some point. So I don't expect the fight to go the distance, but again, there is a path for it to go the distance. Shabazian minus 188 versus Dobson plus 162. Edmund has been just such a difficult guy to figure out from fight to fight. You know, a lot of hype around him. Remember, early on. And then he's lost 4 of his last 5 fights. And this is a case where they rushed him too early. He should be fighting guys like Dobson. This is the caliber of guys he should have been fighting earlier on. However, they threw him to the wolves. Right? Derek Brunson, veteran. This is like 5-6 fights ago, Brunson. So he's still relevant, top 10 fighter. Hermanson, very difficult fighter to beat, as you've seen in his last fight. Imavov, very high level. And then Anthony Hernandez, you see what Anthony Hernandez has been doing. Fluffy. It's just very difficult when you're a young fighter to fight this type of caliber. So I get the 4 or 5 losses. However, you know, there was issues with his gas tank in those fights, volume. So there was issues. And I do expect him to be working on it. He's still young, 25, 26 years old, and he fights out of a very good camp. Right? He can't, so resume-wise, Shabazian, big check mark in that department. You can't compare resumes here. Dobson losses are to Malkoun and Petrosian. You know, mid to lower tier guys in this division. Stats, when you look at both these guys, very similar. Nothing really that stands out for me to mention. You know, Dobson has a bit more volume. Edmund trains with a better team, like I mentioned earlier, very high on his team, getting getting a lot of good training in with his camp over there. Dobson, not too sure, right? And not too sure what he's doing over there in his camp. You know, this is a very winnable fight for Edmund. He has the power to hurt him on the feet. I do expect Edmund to be the better striker, land the bigger shots. However, Dobson could mix in some wrestling, which has me a bit concerned, and you know why I'm unable to pay an almost minus 200 price on Edmund. I cannot pay that price, right? Dobson, if he does stick to some wrestling, I do think he could maybe steal the fight that way if he mixes it up, make an MMA fight and able to get Edmund down, right? Edmund has also struggled with cardio in the past, which makes me stay away when I see minus 200, right? When I see cardio issues, Dobson might be able to wrestle. He's going to be the stronger guy in there and more physical. I can't bet a guy at minus 200 when I see that, right? Even though I'm going to lean Edmund here for video and audio purposes, you know, I don't love the price, so I cannot bet this price due to multiple concerns with Edmund. Cardio, like I mentioned, we've seen him gas many times when it gets deeper into the fight. Confidence can't be there, right? His confidence can't be great. And then, like I said, Dobson does have a slight wrestling advantage here. Does he use it will be the question. This is a fun one. Tough one to call, though. Talbot minus 160 versus Simon plus 130. I think it's a very good fight between two young prospects. We could see a banger here, right? Both guys have a ton of volume, which you do expect at the bantamweight division. Talbot 1-0 in the UFC. Found a 3rd round submission in his first fight. Did struggle against a very low tier opponent, guys, in that first round. He almost lost that fight if he didn't get the submission. That's worth mentioning here. And it's a big step up for him here. Simon, 4 fights in the UFC, 3-1. A lot of people are high on him. He is coming off that loss to Christian Rodriguez. Who doesn't Christian Rodriguez beat, right? He just continues to beat prospects after prospect. And he's just coming off another win. Christian Rodriguez continues to get undervalued and win these fights. Simon was a victim of that. You know, this fight should stay on the feet, where I favor Simon slightly. I favor him on the feet slightly. I do expect maybe to land a bigger shot and slightly maybe have more volume. Talbot may want to try to get this fight down to the ground. I do think Talbot's the better grappler out of the two. So on paper at least. So if I do think he gets this fight down to the ground, I think that's where he's going to benefit. And I do think that's why he's slightly favored here. due to the grappling and wrestling advantage I do believe he's going to have here. But there is some value here on Simon. If I gun to my head, I had to bet this fight, it would be Simon due to the plus money. I do have this fight as more as a pick'em, even money. So when I see that, there is some value, plus 130. Am I going to bet it? No, because I do think this fight could go either way. I think it's pretty much a flip of a coin. But if you're a value bettor and you like to bet multiple fights on the card, again, I don't force bets, and that's why I'm able to be profitable every year, because I don't just bet to bet. Right? If I had to bet, yeah, I'd bet Simon plus 130. But when you look at the odds, and I say yes just because the odds I'm going to bet the fight, that's not smart. That's not smart. Right? I have this fight as more could go either way. Talbot has a path in the wrestling and grappling department. So I'll be staying away from this, but like I always do, give out a lean or a pick on Beat the Books here, and it's going to be Simon. And again, it's going to be due to the plus 130. I need multiple reasons why to bet a fight for myself and clients. I don't have enough here. Billy Q. Oh, I love some Billy Q. Love watching Billy Q. Minus 138, minus 140 around the market versus Zalal plus 110. You know, Billy's back guy. I like the back. I like to back him in good spots due to his pricing usually being decently priced. Here, I think it's very fair. You know, very winnable fight for Billy here. You know, Zalal has lost 3 fights in a row with a draw in there. Keep that in mind. He hasn't had his hand raised for a very long time. Sure, could be back up against the wall. And Zalal also a prospect coming in to the UFC. Didn't pan out for him. And he does fight in out of Denver. Very high altitude, good cardio. You expect this fight to go 3 rounds, right? Over 2.5, fight to go 3 rounds. Definitely would be the pick for me. Neither guy are finishers, right? I think Billy Q struggles when a guy has some finishing ability. Right, I think that's where he struggles, right? Against Barbosa, where he got caught with a knee. We know Barbosa could finish fights. But he's a couple good wins in there, right? He has won 2 of his last 3 fights. That's Billy Q. Damian Jackson's a decent, solid win. And Alexander Hernandez. Nice little win there as well. Right, so Billy is finding wins over decent fighters. I definitely expect this fight to be close, though, guys. So if you're betting this fight, you might be nail-biting throughout this fight. I do expect it to be very close. Billy Q should have more volume here, right? That's where I think he wins this fight. Averaging over 7 significant strikes landed per minute. That's a ton. You're not going to find much higher than that at any division, right? Zalal under 3 guys. So the volume is going to be the big difference here. I don't think Zalal can take him down and out-wrestle him or anything like that. So I think this is a good price on Billy. This could make my client card this week. Billy at this price, decent amount. And if you want to improve it, you can maybe look at a decision. I don't really see anyone getting finished in this fight. Neither one usually are known to be finishing fights. A lot of fights go to decision. So Billy Q will be the play. Could be a close fight, though. Could be a close fight, which has me, you know, I don't love, when I see close fights and you have a bet on it, a very sizable bet on it, you know, it could be a nail biter. It could be, okay, let's see what the judges decide, which sometimes you don't want that, right? You don't want to know what the judges are looking at. And sometimes I've lost bets, even though I thought I won the bet, the judges thought otherwise. Fight to open up the main card, which I don't, you know, have a too much of a, I guess, outlook on it. Padilla minus 163 versus Pajuelo plus 137, the Peruvian fighter. Tough one here to open up the main card. You know, Padilla, he didn't show up last time. I did have him in a 2-fight parlay against Nelson, and just Nelson outworked him. You know, showed more grind. And that's what I have. Padilla, excellent striker, good distance. Does he have that dog? Does he have that grind in him? I don't think so. I don't think he's that type of guy. And Nelson just took it away from him. Is the Peruvian fighter that type of guy? Not too sure. He doesn't have any UFC experience, right? Only Dana White Contender Series win, and it was a nice one. It was a nice finish on that. So, you know, there's some value here, but it's a debut fight. I don't like to bet debut guys unless, you know, I have a little more information on him. And he doesn't have a lot of fights, right? So, you know, because of that, I'm going to lean Padilla to bounce back. I think his reach and striking could be too much for the Peruvian, but I'll be staying far away from this fight. This is I always like to give a pass. I think this is a good pass. If you're a value hunter, take a chance with the Peruvian fighter, sure. But again, we haven't seen him in the UFC. How is he going to come out in his first debut fight when the lights are bright? I don't know, especially on a main card here, even though it's Apex card, I get it. But you don't really know how he's going to show up. I like to study these guys more and have more tape on them in the UFC before I start pulling triggers and betting my hard-earned money and clients' money as well. That will do it, guys. That will do it. Another UFC Vegas card around the corner. Couple good fights on the card, but you know, we got to start expecting these UFC Vegas cards, especially when we have bangers of pay-per-views that just passed and that are coming up. You got to expect some cards. I'm just happy there's fights every week. No matter what, I'm watching the fights from start to end, early prelims all the way to the end. That's what I love doing, and hopefully you guys do as well. Like I always say, bet smart and know your limits. Take care.